Hey everybody, it's me, Undead Viking. I'm here to review yet another game for you. The game I'm going to show you today, I don't have a box or anything, but it's called Raid and Trade, and this is a new game that's coming out from Mage Company. And now Mage Company's had a lot of really cool games lately. They had 12 Realms, a really good co-op game. They had Hoyok, which was a really fun area control game set in like the Stone Age and stuff like that, and I've done reviews for both of those games. But this is kind of a brand new game. It's more honestly, kind of like that tweener thematic slash Euro game. It's kind of there's combat, there's negotiation, and it's got a really good theme basis. The idea behind the game is that this is after World War III, and there's desolation and what have you, and the world has been destroyed, and the players are these last remnants of civilization trying to eke out an existence. And the idea is that there is like these paradises, the Golden City is what it's called, and you're trying to gain acceptance into that area so you can move out of the squalor that is the ruins and the rubble that is the rest of the world. And so you and the other players will maneuver your character, your person, among these ruins, basically breaking into houses, trying to get resources that you then can use to like fulfill quests or create items or use them to attack other players and so on and so forth, with the idea that you'll manage to satisfy one of 3 victory conditions, which will then let you win the game. This isn't a game where like everybody gets a turn, and even if you win on like the first turn, like everybody else gets seized if they can win as well. No, the first person to satisfy one of 3 victory conditions will be the person that wins the game, and the game's just over at that point. So I was really excited to play this game just because of the fact that I knew it was going to have a lot of player interaction. I knew it was going to have a lot of confrontation, and so I was excited to see that develop and that kind of show itself to me. And so when I got the kind of the print and play version from the company, that they're based in Greece, so it took a while for me to get here, but I played it with my buddies and we've had a lot of fun with it. So let me show you exactly how the game is played, and then we will come back and I'll tell you why. I've kind of explained why I like the game already, but I'll touch on those things and I'll expand on them just a little bit. So, all right, here we go. Raid and Trade. Okay, this is the game board for Raid and Trade, and I do apologize. This is a print and play copy, as I said. So what you see in front of you is, well, I think some of the artwork and what you see in front of you is actually going to be representative as far as what the game is going to look like. But ultimately, this is not cardboard or chipboard or anything like that. And these are not miniatures, obviously, and those are representing the players. So, this is, keep that in mind as I explain how the game is played. So, to begin the game, you can play with 3 to 5 people. The reason there has a minimum of 3 people is due to the fact that this is a negotiation game, and you really can't negotiate with 2 players because nobody ever. It'd just be difficult. You have to have that kind of third wheel for a negotiation game really to work well. To play the game, each person is going to get a character, and you get one of these characters, and each one has it has a certain deck of items that they get along with their character, and also like their combat dice are different. So you can see Carter the Bodyguard is like going to be one of those characters that's really good at combat, but Mayu the Medic not so much, and so there's a difference. And each one will have their own set of cards that they'll use that they get to have during the game that they can create and use so they can have items that can help them as they fight. Now, since this is a print and play thing, you can see that there's these holes here, here, and here. I didn't cut those out in the other game because when I played this with my friends, we didn't actually spin these wheels. But here, just bear in mind, this is what the game is going to look like. Notice these spots here. I just don't have print and play smarts, if you will. But each character will have 3 different wheels they'll spin. action points over here, skill points down here, and both favor and like basically good guy, bad guy. You know, this is positive favor, this is negative favor, and that's like technically it's called blacklisting. But anyway, so like you have like each one of your turns, you start off, you have 15 action points, and so like you have this little 15, and then normally see you turn it as you use the action points like so. Now when we played this, we just marked this down on pieces of paper, like used a 20-sided die. Now the same thing goes, you know, for skill. You start off with 0 skill, and then and skill is one of the things that if you can get your skill up to 20, then you can win the game if you have 20 action points. But so you just obviously turn this as it goes, and then finally you have this blacklist wheel that will have, you know, positive and, you know, good guy, bad guy basically. And so you start it off at blank because, you know, you're not, so if you do bad things, you'll you know, spin this to show that you're being evil, or as you start doing good things, you know, it'll, you know, move up on the chain. And if you can get up to 10 on like the good guy track, and then like also have those 20 action points, you can finish off the game as well. The other way you can win the game is by finishing off these quests. These quest cards are up here, and there's one up there for each character that is playing, for each player, and they get replaced as they get claimed. If you complete 3 quests and have 20 action points, you win the game. But you can see, like in this one, it's like you just turn in these types of resources. Oops, you can turn in these types of resources 4 and 3 and 3, and then you claim this quest, and then it also gives you a permanent ability, so you can craft items of other players that give, you know, 1 skill. So like you can, there's things like extra abilities, or like here, like this one, if you know, turned in for this quest, you don't have to use a gun if somebody attacks you. Normally, like, you have to use a gun resource if you're going to be defending or attacking. Now you might be wondering, well, where do we get these resources? Well, you get the resources, you can see there's all these little things here that show these houses. Red ones are large houses, yellow ones are medium houses, and the green ones are small houses. And you will go in those, and when you successfully raid them, that's where the raid of the raid and trade comes, you have a big bag. Luckily, I have buddies that are bartenders, so I have lots of these Crown Royal bags. I didn't get a bag for this. And then you'll reach into the bag, and then you'll draw a certain number of resources out, and then you get to collect these and put them by you. And then you can use these to complete quests, or create items, or trade, hence the trade part of raid and trade with other players. Now, I haven't actually even shown you the mechanisms, so just bear with me here and I'll show you the rest of the stuff. In the middle of the board, you'll pick 1 black market card, and this will be the one that gets used for the rest of the game. Now, if people go to the black market, what they can do is they trade 4 of any resource, and they can turn it into 1 of something else. So if you really needed a gun resource, you could trade in 4 other resources of whatever, and you could go ahead and get that 1 gun resource. Now, it isn't the best trade, obviously, but there's going to be lots of situations where to complete a quest or create an item, you just need to be able to do that. So you'd have that available to you. And as I said, each player will have its own deck of items, and they don't have the same number either. So I mean, this is one of those things where the trader guy, like Carter, I think has 15 items he can make, whereas Garcia the trader has only 12, and so on and so forth. But so you have these decks, and basically over here it tells you what you need to create the super gun. You need these 2 resources, and then you gain a skill point for doing it, and then you'd have this don't use a gun to attack, reroll once the combat die. And then this little flame thing up here means that it's a one-shot item. So once you use it, you discard it. And you can't build it again either. And so some of these guns, the super gun is there, gets to use armor and stuff like that. And so, that is the bodyguard's deck. But, for example, we have, not Zoe, here. Where is he? There's one guy that's like a mechanic. Here we go. So here's Jake the mechanic, and you can see that red is his color, and so And then you can see Jake the mechanic, like he has like a roadster. You know, so basically he can make a car. If you turn this in, you get 3 skill points. And then if he uses it, he immediately gets 8 action points. So it's just one of those things. So like, you know, he has that ability. Now, sometimes, like things like solar panel, doesn't give you any ability, but it'll give you these 2 skill points. And as you know, skill points is the way that you can win the game if you get enough of them. Now then, you figure out who the first player is, however you're going to do that. And then you begin by, that person takes their turn, and they get to do a move action, and they get to do an action. Now, they don't have to move if they don't want to, but once they do their action, they're done. Now, an action could be to attack another player, or like raid a house, or perhaps going to the Citadel, which is, all these houses in the Citadel are randomly placed on the board when the game begins. I'm sorry, here is the Citadel. Once you do an action, you're done. Now, mostly what you're going to be doing is you're going to be raiding houses. And so if, like, you know, Jake was going first, it's an action point to move, and just 1 action point now, but you will spend more action points if you actually go to another tile. There's no limit to how much you can move. As long as you have the action points available, you can move wherever you want. So if Jake, say, wanted to get to here, he could say, well, I'm going to go here. That's 1 action point, another action point for going to another tile. And you got to follow the roads. That's the one thing that you got to do. And as you follow the roads, then you actually also, if you ever cross any of these red barriers that are here, that's an extra action point to do so. So if, you know, Jake wanted to go into this tile, that would be 2 action points. You know, 1 to move and an extra 1 for the fact that he's, you know, crossing this border into the next tile. If Jake wanted to go over to this one, that would be another action point. That would be 3. And if for whatever reason he wanted to cross this barrier, that would be 4. So that would be like, he would have to spend 4 action points to do that. Now, obviously, you're not going to do that the first turn because there's lots of stuff that you can do over here already. And so one of the first things you're going to do is you want to raid a house. Now, large houses cost 10 action points to raid. Medium houses cost 8, and small houses cost 6. Obviously, with the houses that get larger, you can get better rewards depending on, you know, what happens in there. So now, normally these cards would be face down. They're face up due to the fact that I can't. This is printing, so I don't really have it in, like, they're not color coded on the back. So when we played, what we did was we just, you know, searched through and we just pulled one out at random. And cards will either tell you to do one of 2 things. It'll either ask you to roll a die, or it'll give you basically immediately something that you have to do. And so these are the 2 different options that can happen. I'm just going to show these to you. So here's one that has a die, and here's one that something happens immediately. And the ones that have a die, you're going to roll, and you're going to, like, it's basically 50-50. Odds means you're successfully raiding. Evens mean you unsuccessfully raid. So it says no one around. Phew. So, like, obviously, so it's like it's like an empty house that you found. And so you can see over here that if you successfully raid it, you get 7 resource tokens. If you unsuccessfully raid it, you get 4. If you successfully raid it, then you can do the second part down here. In which case, this case, you can give 3 skill points to get to favor. Now, if you don't have the skill points, obviously you can't. But anyway, if you got into that house, you roll a die. See what we get here? Even. So that wouldn't work. So you wouldn't successfully raid the house with this one. You'd get 4 resource tokens. So you'd reach into the bag and you'd claim 4. Let's just see here. I got 4. And so you claim your 4 resources, and these are kept face up in front of you. You don't hide these. And then the house would stay there. Now, if you'd successfully raided it, you'd get the 7 tokens for successfully raiding it, and then you'd get rid of the house. You'd take it off and remove it from the game. I believe in the published game, there's going to have the tokens will have on the reverse side like a X through them or something to show that they've been searched, so you don't actually take them off. But regardless. So now on this one, you automatically have to take 2 blacklist, for on your favorite trial, and you're going to get on your favorite turnstile or whatever, and you get 8 resources for doing it. And then on the bottom, it says you give 5 of any resource, and you can get 2 skill. And you can say, let's split the loot and run, long live the resistance. And so there's this little dude in there that works with you. And so those are the 2 possibilities. And sometimes, like, you'll get positive favor, like so, for doing that as well. I should mention that with action points, you do get some back with certain houses that you investigate, or like certain incident cards that you can pull, which are here. That you get as well. You can get incident cards, from different global effects, and also from when you move from tile to tile. I actually forgot to show you one thing, and I do apologize for that. At the beginning of the turn, the first player will actually take these. These are global effects. They take two of the cards, and they look at them, and they decide which one they're going to say. So, like team up, every player can give 3 action points to get 1 incident card, which are these little cards right there. Or there's settlement. Trading with other players does not cost any energy. So, normally it costs 1. If you want to trade with somebody, it costs you 1 of your action points or your energy points to do so. Not suggesting the trade, but actually fulfilling the trade does so. So anyway, the first player gets to pick one of these 2, so they can pick that one. This one is discarded and put at the bottom of the deck. And then this would be in effect until this round is over with. And so then if you wanted to, you could spend those 3 and you could get one of these instant cards where, it gives you an extra little ability that you can use at some point. So mercenaries and pause and new location, give 1 less if you trade with the black market. So these cards just basically break the rules in some way that are already in place, as with a lot of games with different cards that give you those abilities. It does cost you an action point as well if you decide to stop and make one of your items, so that's something you have to keep in mind as well. Now, after you do your move and your action, and the next player does their move and their action, the next player does a move action, and so on and so forth, until it gets back to the first player. Now, and you keep doing this over and over until everybody uses up their action points, or they just say they don't have anything left that they can that they want to or they can do. At which point, then, that round is done, and you begin the next round by determining the first player by whoever has the least number of resource tokens. If there's 2 people tied, as far as that's concerned, then the person with the lowest skill will go first in the next turn, and you just start it up again. As this game has no set turn limit. It's whoever actually satisfies one of the 3 winning conditions immediately wins at that point. The only other thing that I haven't shown you, or what you can do, is, well, besides attacking, which I'm going to show you in just a second, but if you go to the Citadel, you can go there, and to enter it, it costs, you can see it's listed right here, it costs you 5 action points to enter. And if you work for them, then you can earn one of these favor tokens if you have 8 action. And if you want to test new medicine, you can get 2 favor for 10. So obviously you want to get one of those favor tokens for the favor that's on them before you take one of these. The only difference with these favor tokens is that you can actually, if somebody attacks you and beats you, they can take one of those from you. Finally, you can attack the Citadel if there's somebody in it, and the attack automatically works. And once you attack the Citadel, you do gain some blacklist points for doing so, but then you automatically gain 3 resources of your choice from the person that you attack. Now, if 2 players are next to each other, or somebody moves next to each other, like they're here, you can draw a path. They're in this area, and you can draw a path on the road to see them. But like this wouldn't work because you can't on the same tile. You can't. You can't draw a path like around like this. That way you couldn't. These 2 players couldn't fight, but these 2 players could. And to fight, you have to initiate a fight. It actually costs the attacker. They have to spend action points to do it. They spend 5 action points to attack, and to defend, you have to spend 3 action points. If you don't defend, you automatically lose. Plus, you also have to have a gun resource unless you have an ability that allows you, like, remember that one where the one quest up there, you didn't use a gun resource to defend? So, what you do then is each player will attack. So if this was a fight between, we have the bodyguard and Carter and Jake, the mechanic. So Carter decides that Jake's got too much cool stuff and he wants to fight him. So each player is going to roll a die. And so let's say the blue die is Carter and the orange die is Jake. So they both roll their dice, and we're going to see. And so that's probably not going to be a good. Well, actually, because the POW is actually is a hit, which is good. So and if this nuclear symbol means it automatically succeeds, and you can't defend against it. And so in this case, Carter succeeds with his attack POW. But if Jake had rolled a 1, 2, or 3 to get a defense over here, it would not have worked. But in this case, it did, because Jake rolled a 4. So you drag that up, and you can see that that Carter has won the battle, and now he can either be given 5 resources by Jake of Jake's choice, or Carter, and that's Jake decides. He either is going to give Carter 5 resources that he picks, or he can allow Carter to choose 3 resources of Jake's that he wants. You can also, as I said, you can if somebody has these favor tokens, you can take those as well. And that means that person would lose the favor on their dial, and then Carter would gain the favor if those actually change to hands. So in some of these cases, like you notice that if Carter rolled like a 3 or 4, not only would he succeed in the combat, but he would also get to create one of his items. Like in this case, he'd be able to create an item for free that he had. And so there are other extra effects that do occur, when you succeed in a combat. So, and that is like something that if you have a combat-oriented character, it's something you definitely want to take advantage of when you can, if somebody is foolish enough to be around you at the time. Because in my opinion, it's always better to take resources from somebody, because you're not only gaining, but you're actually reducing somebody as well. So it's kind of double benefit, if you will. But that's the entire game. I mean, and there's a lot more to it, obviously, because each turn you're actually moving around the board, trying to stay away from people, or trying to get to the nice big red houses so you can loot them first. But you're gonna continue on, like as I said, until usually it seems to me that most of the characters are usually almost there, just at that cusp of winning. And so one person has to get that last final gasp to satisfy one of the conditions, make sure they have enough action points to do it. And one of the nice ways to get action points actually is you can turn in your food items for 1 action point for each one. So it's not uncommon for players to stockpile up their food for that last moment, so they can turn them in and win the game at that point. So, well, there you go. That's a real brief overview of how to play Raid and Trade. But let me tell you exactly what I think about it right now. Alright, so there you go. That's how you play Raid and Trade. Now, I really invite you, and I mentioned this when I was describing the game to you and showing you how to play. I really invite you to go and check out the Kickstarter, or check out the game page on Board Game Geek to really see what the end components are going to look like. The final game really is going to pop, and definitely the miniatures that will replace these big chunky wooden cubes will really make the game presence or whatever really show for the people that play the game. Now, that being said, what I have here is still a lot of fun, but this is definitely one of those games where I really look forward to seeing the final production of the game, because I think it's going to be without a doubt pretty amazing. As far as I've always dug the art and the production quality of the Mage Company games. They do really good work with those. So as far as the game itself and the mechanisms and everything like that, this is exactly one of the game that I knew I was going to like. I like it has a weird, this isn't a really direct comparison, if you will, but it has a weird Eldritch horror, Arkham horror type feel. You're moving around the board, you're going into areas, and you're activating those spots, and you're pulling a card, and you're experiencing a situation. You have to roll some dice, and you figure what's going on, and then you collect some resources, and then you use those to, do other things on the board, do things with your character, do things to complete quests. Plus, you have the added action of being able to like attack and war with the other players in the board. And I really dig games with a lot of player interaction. If you've watched my videos, you know that. It's something that I really enjoy. I like being able to directly affect somebody else that's playing the game. And, just that whole process of the fact that there's one of 3 different things that you can shoot for to win the game, and you can be like the super good guy getting like the favor. You can shoot for the skill, to get your skill points up, or you can go for the quests. And you can really, and it isn't a game where you have to focus on one. I mean, there's a lot of games out there that have multiple winning conditions, but once you kind of go down a path, you can't ever dissuade yourself away from it. And that's something that. I enjoy the fact that, like, I've had situations where I was going after quests, and then, like, all of a sudden, a situation presented itself where, I was able to win with a favor. And just because of certain situations and cards and abilities that I had unlocked that allowed me to win that way. And so I like that aspect. And I also like the fact that this is just a race, so the players are actually going to dictate how long the game is going to last. And there definitely is a situation where you can look across the table, you can see somebody who's doing better than you, and the other players will realize that, and they will go and gang up on that person to kind of knock them down. And it is a kind of a cutthroat game, especially because of the negotiation aspect. And I've had many turns where people are saying, it's like, look, I need to go get that guy or he's going to win, so here, I'm going to trade you this, and then you give me that gun so I can go and I can attack him. Okay, sounds good. And you give him that. And then the other person's like, whoa, don't do that. I might be getting close to winning, but, I can give you something better, and then, you can take this instead. And so I enjoy games that kind of thrust that interaction and that conversation upon the people at the table, and it definitely is that. I mean, it doesn't hurt that the theme is actually a lot of fun. I'm rolling dice, and and just the game itself just has kind of a gritty, no holds barred appeal that my gaming group enjoys. So ultimately, if your gaming group enjoys this type of game, it isn't a true Ameritrash game in my opinion, because of the fact that there's the resource collection and negotiation. It has Ameritrash leanings, but I played lots of Euros with good negotiation as well. It's kind of like I said, it's kind of a tweener game. It's somewhere it rides the rails between the two really well actually. I really, it's a game that kind of tells a story as you're playing it, and each time it has like the interaction you have with the game itself is actually quite interesting. I really dig the random house cards. If I could change one thing about the game, I would like make it so there was like just a ton of these different house cards, and each one kind of tells a little story when you turn it over, and to see what you're interacting with and what have you. And I really like that aspect. I like that whole process of like the unknown, the mystery of like, okay, I'm gonna go break into this house, and then now we're gonna find out what's behind that door, kind of thing. And I like games like that. So there you go. Check it out. Check out the Kickstarter. Check out the game page on Board Game Geek, and you inform yourself. And if it's something you think you want to put on your shelf, you can back it, and you can get a copy once it gets published. If you have any questions about the game, by all means, please ask away. I'll be happy to try to answer those. And as always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And doubly as always, until the next time you and I meet at one of these videos, you have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right. Bye-bye now.